Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the 15 best brawlers to use in ranked right now. So I'm hoping this is probably the last ranked season before the rework and whatever else. So there's going to be even better competitive content coming your way in the next update, hopefully. But now let's jump into the best 15 brawlers in the meta. So to begin with, I think Gus still absolutely is an S-tier brawler in the meta. Of course, in ranked, there are ways to counter him, and there's a lot more like healer compositions coming about, like Barry, Poco, etc. But Gus as standalone brawler is still really good. You just got to make sure that you're pairing him with some type of anti-tank or, you know, tank DPS brawler that can help him. But Gus standalone brawler is really good. You can play him literally everywhere. He's one of the best gem carriers right now. He's probably the best brawler in bounty and knockout. He has a decent amount of HP, really good damage. His shield can be used combined with so many brawlers. His gadget's really good at confirming kills. You can play Gus literally everywhere, so he's absolutely still S tier and one of the best brawlers in ranked. So next up we have Eve, and I'm pleasantly surprised on how good Eve is right now in the meta, and it's thanks to the hypercharge. So without the hypercharge, she's very mid, so you can only play her in ranked if you have that hypercharge available. But yeah, the reason why is because it's so good, and it's really good against so many brawlers in the meta. So with that hypercharge, you're able just to create so much pressure, and that's all you need, right? Because there's hardly any brawlers that have infinite ammo to take down all the hatchlings. Of course, in some game modes, you see brawlers that have a lot of piercing abilities a lot more frequently. You know, for example, if you play even gem grab, you might see some standees and tanks that can shoot through them all. But in the game modes where you play her normally, like bounty, knockout, heist even, there's a lot of single shot brawlers, so Eve will just absolutely counter so many brawlers. All you need is that one hypercharge, you could take over the map. So absolutely, she's one of the best brawlers in ranked. So the next brawler on the list is Draco, and he's one of my favorite brawlers in this season of ranked because people are underrating him a lot, but people have got the wrong perception about Draco because he wasn't this brawler that was always, you know, super underrated, and you know, there's a few people like, oh, Draco was always good. Well, he just wasn't, because he was only used like once, maybe twice in competitive play for like the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of the competitive season. But the reason why he's so good is because the meta around him. You got brawlers like Clancy, Mo, even Kenji, Surge, all of these big DPS brawlers at the top, they got nerfed. And the meta is very balanced right now. Not a lot really stands out, so it's just allowed Draco to thrive. Of course, he's got some really good synergy with his healing star power and a really strong gadget. As long as you don't waste your super and you have really well-timed gadgets, you're just going to take over the game. It's just how Draco is. He's specifically really good in hot zone. He always was still prevalent in the hot zone meta, and he's still really good right now. He pairs really well with Barry, pairs really well with Poco, and he's a great counter to a lot of the meta brawlers right now, like Gus, like Stu. You've got other brawlers at the top have low DPS, so Draco's just going to benefit off that because he can get quite tanky in that super form. So of course he can be underrated as well, like knockout, gem grab. In other situations, he's not like broken, but he's definitely, I would say, near the A tier. So next on the list we have Barry, so another big improver in the meta, mainly thanks to his hypercharge. But again, I just think the brawlers around him in the meta just helps him even more. When Barry's good, it's normally when low DPS brawlers are at the top, because they just can't deal enough damage to keep up with the healing that he provides. But again, his hypercharge charges so quickly. As long as you're able to constantly take damage, you can constantly heal up and then gain supercharge from that. But the biggest one is definitely supering your teammates. If you can super your teammates, multiple of them, you're going to fly through charging multiple supers a game, and you can just take over the map. Especially again in hot zone, he's like one of the best brawlers right there. You've also got heist. He's really good, especially in maps like hot potato. You just need literally one gadget on a safe, dealing 20%, and he's good in other instances as well. So I would say that he's quite limited in his maps that he's good in, but when there is a good map, like any hot zone map, he's probably the best brawler of it. Next up on the list, we have Lou. So Lou has to be close to the S tier, if not S tier right now. I wanted to predict this when the balance changes happened, but I knew I'd get a lot of slack for it because the thing is, Lou's main attack is still pretty hard to hit, but because he has such a quick reload speed now, he's so toxic. He can charge through supers quicker, of course. He's got more DPS. There's so much about Lou now. He has a quicker reload speed. He's fantastic. And because of, again, like other DPS brawlers got nerfed, like Clancy, Mo, etc., Lou has kind of took that spot in being the brawler to counter those tanks, and you always need one of those brawlers in ranked. Specifically in Brawl, he's going to be really good there. Pop on the vision gear and they can really counter tanks on those grassy maps. You've also, of course, got hot zone, his best brawler there. You've also got him being a really good late pick and knockout because you see a lot of tanks like Daryl, etc. So good for that reason. I just think Lou's such a consistent brawler in the meta right now. Absolutely must max him out, and people don't even realize how strong he is still. So next up on the list we have Poco. So another really big improver. people probably didn't see this one coming, but I feel like Poco is such a good brawler in ranked because, again, it's the outplay potential. Just like with Draco and Berry, you can counter your opposition so easily. What people are making the same mistake time and time again is going multiple low DPS brawlers in the same composition. So, for example, the enemy might just draft like Gus and Stu in the same composition, or even Gus, or just something like that. Byron, I don't know, another sniper with low DPS. Well, then you can pull out the Poco and a tank, and you can just run them down so easily. So this is, again, especially prevalent in Hot Zone, but of course, Poco's never good in Bounty and Knockout, but he can be good at Heist as well. But he's good in the other 3 game modes. Brawl, of course, paired with tanks really easily. Gem Grab, he can still be used on a bushy map. Again, it's just all about figuring out the opponents to have like 1 or 2 low DPS brawlers, and then you can easily whip out the Poco. Also, you got the fact that he really counters certain brawlers on Hot Zone like Lou, Amber, you've got Willow, you've got any poisoned enemies like Byron. With the gadget, Protective Tunes, you're literally immune for 4 seconds. It's kind of crazy and pretty busted in this meta. Next up on the top 15 list, we have Stu. So, of course, I couldn't make this meta list without him because he's just super versatile. You can play him in every single game mode outside of Bounty and Knockout. Heist is still some use case for him because he can be that clean-up brawler, but everywhere else, he's probably the best brawler because in Hot Zone, he's just really flexible. You can use both gadgets however you want. You know, you might be able to get ran down by Stu, but, you know, typically you pair Stu with like a big damage dealer so you can cover his weaknesses. But still, even if Stu's facing off against tanks, which is his biggest weakness sometimes because he just doesn't have DPS to keep up with, at least they're feeding him his hypercharge, and when he gets his hypercharge he can just take over the game. Gem Grab Brawl, of course, is really good. Gem Grab, you can play him as a mid or as a lane. There's just so much to like about Stu. Just max him out. The next up on the list we have Maisie. So I know I'm gonna eat my words a little bit. Maybe I underrated Maisie a little bit. I think some people are taking it too far, saying Maisie's S tier. I personally don't see that. Again, I'm not the pro, but I just don't see it. But I think Maisie is creeping towards the A tier. I've just got to come to terms with it because Maisie's damage is just absolutely insane. But the reason why people play Maisie is because of the anti-tank. It's a very like rock, paper, scissors meta in ranked, if you've heard about terminology, where you've got low DPS brawlers in the meta like Gus and Stu, then you've got healers to counter that, and then of course you've got anti-tanks to counter all the mess that's going on with tanks and stuff. So Maisie's really good for that reason. So of course in Brawl, pretty good. Gem Grab can be pretty good. In Heist, can be pretty good as a defender. In like Hot Potato, for example, Hot Zone can be pretty good, but it's all about the person using Maisie to make it worthwhile. So I think she's a lot better than I gave her credit for. So next up on top 15 list, we have Larry and Laurie. So the twins are still just too good. I try not to include them in these lists, but at the same time, you just can't not include them. I end up banning the twins just so much because it gets to the point where it's really like a big counter out there for them. If it's a brawler that can't be countered in draft, like, again, I've just got to ban them. They're just so good against everything. So the twins, you can literally play them everywhere. Every single game mode, you can play them. You can switch star powers, do whatever. I normally just always use a reload star power anyways. But again, really good in Hot Zone because there's a lot of maps with unbreakable walls, even just open business, parallel. Literally all of them except for Ring of Fire, really good. Knockout, pretty good as a throw because, again, you can defend yourself against tanks. Will lose against other throws sometimes, but you can still win if you're a good Larry. Also, Heist, really good in like Hot Potato. Gem Grab can be good as a late pick. Brawl can be good as a late pick. So there's so much use case for him. He absolutely has to be one of the best brawlers in rank. So next up on the list, we have Max. So again, Max is another brawler where there's not really a ton of weaknesses for Max. So for that reason, it's just always beneficial of thinking about picking them when you're playing ranked. So the thing about Max is people always underestimate her. They always think that she's not the best, but she is. She's good in her own way. So she's an enabler. She enables other brawlers on your team to make the plays. So whether you're pairing it with a tank, whether you're pairing it with like a Sandy or just something aggressive to just get into the opponent's face. And it's all about positioning with Max. It's all about trying to gain control of the map with your gadgets, supers, to then, of course, if you get control of the map, you're eventually going to win, right? So whether that's Brawl, whether that's Gem Grab, really good gem carry because, again, you're not really countered by tanks. In Heist, rarely used. Bounty and Knockout, really good to counter the snipers, especially in Bounty. And Hot Zone can be pretty decent as well. So Max, again, not many weaknesses. Got one of the best hypercharges in the game. So absolutely S tier. Next brawler on the list is Janet. And I really like Janet as a late pick in draft because early on there are counters because she has a low DPS. But I love her as a lane counter option. So by that I mean like in Brawl, Gem Grab. If there's another lane brawler that's, I don't know, lacks the range, like Sandy, for example, or like Tara, you can pull out the Janet and just easily win your matchup. And then you've got a really good hypercharge on top of that can easily confirm kills, kill gem carriers, and just deal great damage. Again, you've got really good gadgets to scout grassy maps. You've also got the vision gear paired really well with her. Again, you can't really pick her early on in the draft because there are weaknesses, but again, in Hot Zone can be pretty good. I've even seen Janet being used in Bounty, for example. Brawl Gem Grabber, as I said, I think she's really good in ranks, but only as a counter pick. Next up on the list, we have Arti. So another meta has gone by where Arti hasn't even got a hypercharge, and he's still one of the best brawlers in the game. Nothing has changed in this meta whatsoever because pretty much Arti just hard counters some assassins so much where they can't do anything. So just picking him a lot of times can equal a free win. So most of the time it's in Bounty and Knockout because Arti's still good against other snipers because he has a lot of HP, and you know, you get like 2-3 taps in a row, you're going to kill those snipers, so he can be good for that reason. In Knockout he's good because he has a lot of HP, so he can just force his way up the map. And then of course if you have map position in Knockout, it's just equals wins, so he's really good in Knockout. And of course he's got that gadget that allows him to get super free, defending him against Daryl, Kit, etc. He can be good in other instances. I've seen him used in Brawl, Hot Zone. He's not really used too much outside of Bounty and Knockout, but because he's so strong in those game modes, absolutely one of the best in rank. The next brawler you must absolutely play in this rank season is Amber. So again, another brawler. You see a common theme here where she's just good into everything. You always want these type of brawlers in your ranked rotation when you're thinking about brawlers to max out, and Amber's one of them. Again, another brawler that hasn't got a hypercharge just like Arti, but she's still so dominant that pros just love drafting Amber because you can pretty much win every matchup on whatever particular map. There's hardly any weaknesses to her. So Brawl, for example, she's actually pretty good because she's got a gadget to defend herself against tanks. She's got a super to break open the bushes. She's really good with vision gear, etc. Gem grab, she's a really good lane on like undermine, double swoosh, last stop, and good at countering other lanes. Heist, she's pretty good because she can get a lot of damage on the save. Hot Zone, good as well, good control with a super. There's so much to like about Amber. So next up on the list we have Sandy. So I kind of wanted to include maybe like Melody or Ash or someone, but I went with Sandy instead, mainly because of how good Sandy is on those bushy maps. Brawl and Gem Grab, not really the best in Hot Zone right now, but those two game modes in particular, Sandy is just devastating in the draft because there's not really a ton of great things into Sandy, to be honest, because you can always get value even up against tanks. You can get value with Sandy because you can just cycle through your supers. The hypercharge is really good. The gadget is really good at defending. There's just so much to like about Sandy. So I'm moving to the final brawler on the list. I went with Penny. So another brawler where it's like, well, you can just go Penny and she's just good into everything. She's also a really great counter to a lot of the meta brawlers right now, but specifically Eve. People are really struggling to counter Eve, where you can just go Penny into that and counter it so easily. So Penny's really good on pretty much all the heist maps because again, that turret's going to be really annoying. She can just float around, be that support brawler to clean up all the mess. Brawl, she's good later on in the draft, but in particular, you got to stay away from maps where throwers are really dominant. So again, like Hot Zone can be good, but there's a lot of throwers there. Gem Grab, she can be really good mid or a lane option. That's a really beautiful thing about Penny because in draft, you can draft her and say if someone counters you down the mid, well, you can just go down the lane instead of and pick another mid, you know, for example. So really flexible in the draft. You've also got, you know, Bounty. She can be okay in some situation. More good in Canal Grande, to be honest. Knockout, good later on in draft. So there's always like the feeling of, oh, I can maybe just go Penny here if you're unsure on what to go. So that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.